They're like my favorite podcast to listen to.
Get a sound check.
All right.
Yeah!
Yeah, you're laughing all over this thing.
Dude, I love them.
Here we go! It's the Tryforce.
Oh.
It cut out! Just like regular Wi-Fi matchmaking.
This went better than the launch on PC.
Zach, you keep cutting out!
No shit, really?
Yeah, now you're perfect.
Oh,
I tried
man.
so hard.
That's so
Zach, that was
funny.
great.
You
That
know
was great.
what? I was going to play something while you were singing, but I do have a quote to bring to our podcast today. Welcome to the Tryforce, by the way. Zach, you did great. Everybody can fill in the gaps. I'd like to play a quote to get us started this evening to kind of get us in the mood, if you don't mind.
Sure.
You've drawn quite a crowd. If they came to hear me beg, they will be disappointed.
Oh,
Yeah.
yes. We're talking about the end all, well, the middle all, the be all, Halo 2, baby. Oh my God. Just so fucking cool. And like, I have been playing the hell out of it. It's just released for the Master Chief Collection on PC. And it is like I'm 14 again. I'm sitting here slamming back energy drinks in my gaming chair, wearing the same clothes I've been wearing for the past 2 weeks, just blazing through Halo 2. And I have not been, I haven't felt serotonin in roughly 10 years, and it's back, baby. It's back. So we're talking about Halo 2. And with us, obviously, Zach is here. In Halo 2, the Council of the Covenant had 3 prophets.
Nice.
So with us today, the prophet of regret, because I could definitely see him falling to the flood. It's Marlon.
Absolutely.
Oh, thanks.
Oh, man.
I regret because I regret being here.
Oh, man. Ooh. Yeah, you really started
Nonetheless, thank you for having me.
Marlon,
Yeah,
it
really
is a
started
pleasure.
off pretty spicy with our guest there.
Only because we love. Marlon, it is a pleasure and an honor to have you back. Thank you so much for coming through again.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
You're here
having me.
for all Halo-related content.
Literally, like, why do
Yeah,
you research
I'm
when
literally
Marlon's here?
like, you dial on your phone 117 and I'm the one that answers.
Vote now on your phone.
Text now 117343.
Nice.
Absolutely.
Nice. Yeah, so Carlton, it had been a while since I'd played this game. So Colton actually sent me a whole ass video on it earlier today. So I'm remembering a lot of the plot, but what I was interested to remember was the outrageous degree of hype that was generated before this game's release.
Dude.
That was
2004 was one of the most hype times in video game history, and still is. It, like, Halo 2, even with, you know, the shortcomings that it was released with, was still heralded as one of the best games of all time. And still, to this day, holds the record, I think. No, I don't think it's to this day it holds the record, but for a very long time, it held the record of the biggest, like, the highest grossing piece of entertainment media at launch.
Whoa.
Within the first 24 hours of release.
Yeah, I don't know what it is now, but I know Halo 5 shattered every Halo game.
yes.
So I don't know what the current record is for anything.
Yeah, it was unbelievable. But, you know, it was, unfortunately, there was a lot more planned for the game, and we'll talk about that going into this podcast. So let's start at the fucking beginning, man. You know,
Yeah, dude.
Just
So I guess since I'm like the Halopedia kind of guy here,
absolutely.
I guess I'll state, because I mean you guys kind of went into a little bit what you feel about it. To me, based on every game for the Halo series, Halo is the reason why I'm who I am, aside from like Star Wars and all that crap.
Correct.
Except for the sequel trilogy. But I will go down swinging and say that Halo 2 is the best of all the Halo games. and you could fight me on that. I know the Halo 3 people are going to get pissed.
I am
Halo
one of
2
those.
Halo 2 is significantly better in every way except for graphics and the way it runs.
All right, Marlon. Well, it was lovely having you this evening. Thank you so much for joining us.
And that's the Tryforce. Follow us on Twitter at the Tryforce _ but no, I mean, I respect your opinion. And
it's also objective.
It's not objective. Okay, now them's is fighting words. So,
it's objectively better. I'm sorry.
So let's talk about the Jesus. So let's actually talk about the story of the game. I think we can spoil it. It's a fucking 16-year-old game. I think.
Yeah, I think it's been around.
So let's talk about it from the beginning of the actual game. The opening cutscene is one of the coolest things in video game history. I really thought that this was a beautiful touch. At the end of Halo 1, we blew up the first Halo ring that we were on, and we were basically just thrown through the entire human side of the Human Covenant War, at that point in the perspective of Master Chief. At the beginning of Halo 2, we see the destroyed Halo, and we see this floating city called High Charity just sitting around it, and all of a sudden you see an elite getting dragged through High Charity in a council of brutes, elites, and just these horrible alien creatures as they shoot them all throughout the whole rafters upon rafters upon rafters, and you see this kind of court system being held in the Covenant City. So
it looks like Parliament.
Essentially, yeah. And you get to hear from the prophets of truth, regret, and mercy, and they're basically putting, before we know it, the Arbiter on trial for letting the
the first Halo ring.
The first Halo, I forget which one it was.
He was supposed to
number 4.
Installation 4,
he was supposed
yeah.
to guard it. He was supposed to guard it, and he didn't do that because Halo Combat Evolved.
That's Alpha Halo, I think, right?
Excuse me?
That's, if I remember correctly, they number them that way. I think it was just...
I didn't know we were getting into the fucking... I didn't know we were getting into the etymologies and stuff.
I don't know if that's the... I believe that was Alpha because it's the first one.
Yeah, and then the one in Halo 2 is Delta Halo.
Of these, between these two recognized. So I believe they call it Alpha, seeing that it's the first... Yeah. Or at this point, the only one they've seen, so they figure, it's destroyed. So the Arbiter, as of right now and always will be, his real name is Thel Vadami. He has a history of a strong bloodline that goes back, I think, 400 years or so.
Yeah.
And was, essentially a military prodigy. Kind of think like General Grievous, where, he's just, rising through the ranks, conquering different planets, different civilizations. And he finally gets a Halo, encounters a Halo. And the prophets are like, hey, wait here. Don't fuck this up. Just guard it and do your thing.
Honestly, that was the order. Just don't fuck it up. And
yeah, and then the random coincidental jump of the Pillar of Autumn happens to show up. And any control because the prophets pretty much told him to stay stationary. He really couldn't do anything. The prophets held him kind of like red taping or the red rope. They kind of held him to not be able to do anything. It was don't do something that jeopardizes the ring's integrity. So he was kind of sidelined while this was all going down.
Yeah. And
then it blew up.
Exactly.
And then they're like, you did a bad.
Exactly. It's just terrible. It's terrible circumstances for him. We see him in this wonderful gold armor that the elite zealots wear. So clearly he is an extremely high-ranking elite. He's being held on trial, and the prophets are literally saying, you did a bad. You fucked this up, and you're getting demoted. So... And
I feel like it's a little bit more than that. He's getting tortured.
No,
it's way more than that.
They were going to kill him, dude. That's that was the one thing that they needed to get to the great journey.
Yeah.
And according to everybody else, that was the only one in existence. So it is essentially at that point Thel Vadami's fault.
Yeah, the ultimate heresy
for everyone not being able to go on the great journey.
Yeah,
because he, even though he was held on the sideline, he was quote unquote responsible for Halo's destruction.
Exactly. And they had bigger plans for him because I think at that point they knew of the existence of the other rings.
Okay.
Did they, Marlon? Do you remember?
I believe they thought of it.
Yeah, I think so, because
I think they thought about the situation. No, I shouldn't say that. They definitely did.
Because if there wasn't...
Because in Installation 5, when they discover Installation 5, there are Covenant already on it.
Yeah, because
so they know
at
there's
that
another
point,
one. They just kind of hide it from everybody.
Because there would have been no reason to make him the Arbiter at that point. You know, it would have just been kill him and get it over with. The great journey is done. Cancel. Go home. You know, it's
they even say to him as he's being dragged into the mausoleum of the Arbiter that essentially like, listen, man, you're legit. Like we can't just we wanted to kill you, but we couldn't because you're too powerful an asset.
Yeah.
So here's what we're gonna do. You're gonna die anyway because that's what the Arbiter is.
Yeah.
So do this shit and you're gonna end up dying anyway. So we win anyway. We both win.
Exactly.
Yeah, being the Arbiter is kind of like Covenant Suicide Squad. Like you're getting sent as an arm of the state, pretty much, of like the theocracy, because it's like a religious organization, and you are basically put in very dangerous missions that you don't have any real hope of surviving, or so your survival is deemed okay just so you can do more for them.
You're deemed as highly expendable, but like at the same time super important. You know, like, I mean, you get placed in these super important situations with zero expectation of survival. You know, you're sent as a martyr on your missions.
Right. You're essentially kind of like, you're your own person. Like when you see him, for example, when they go to the, I forgot what the kind of station it was, but it was a
gas mining station. It was a gas mining station.
Yeah, gas mine on a gas station, whatever the hell it is, on the planet that's where Installation 4 was, and like he's traveling with the squad, but like he follows the shipmaster. Like that's just how it goes.
These are my elites. Their lives matter. Yours does not. He
doesn't get any control. He doesn't get to do anything. He's just kind of like, you can do what you were told by the prophets, but as long as you're with me, you're listening to what I'm telling you to do.
Yeah, I mean, he had such a fantastic fucking line. He's just, what was it? It was like,
it was like, your like these soldiers, their lives are my responsibility. Yours is not. And he goes, that makes two of us.
Yeah.
And it's like, and so like,
sad.
there's already a buildup of some form of character arc, because at that point it's like, Fel went from being this like highly respected, highly decorated supreme commander, I believe they called it.
Yeah.
Commanding all these different ships and having this different reign in this.
He was a field marshal.
Accolades, to being literally the scum that was put to die. And he's just like, you know what? Like, honestly, after everything that's gone on, I don't really give a shit if I die either.
Yeah. It's just, and it's so sad to see that, because, you know, it personifies these aliens that we have literally been mindlessly mowing down all Combat Evolved, you know, and we get to see them as more of a personable character. You know, we actually have like Sangheili characters in this game, which is amazing. And that was a first for, I really do think that was a first of games at the time. You know, we never really got to see it from the enemy's perspective. So
that's what's so great about it too, is not only did you get to see it, you got to experience it.
Exactly.
So like, you would like, you know, all these different things, like in Halo 1, you were going after, you know, like always like with the headshots of the grunts and the jackals and all these different things. And now you're going into battle alongside them. It's like, what the hell? And you're like, you kind of like, even from the cutscenes, you see the insides of the ships. You see the inside of High Charity. You see how the power struggle is. You see later on when the brutes are being told to take over as the guards instead of the elites. You see the transition and like the build up towards civil war and their inner conflicts. Whereas
so we got
the first game, it was what the hell is this ring? Stop the aliens. They're trying to kill us anyway.
Yeah, first game was extremely simple. It was kill every alien in sight. Oh my god, space zombies. Get away from the space zombies. Blow up the ring. Goodbye, we're done here.
Right,
It's like, oh, this is a super weapon?
Yeah. Now it's super
See you in
dead.
the sequel.
Exactly.
Yeah, pretty much.
But it was and I love the way that they told the story in Halo 2. They didn't do it like, I mean, Miranda Keys and Lord Hood were basically just exposition tools, but I love the way that they just told the story through mission chatter, you know, while you were going into the missions. You know, they didn't stop you to tell you what's going on. They just kind of did it as you were doing it.
Yeah,
know?
I think Halo is a game that doesn't take itself too seriously in
Which
regards
is
to what it is.
amazing.
Which is when they tell the story that they want to tell, it's normally in a way that also facilitates you starting up gameplay. Like, I can't tell you how many times I've had to actively listen while I'm like currently unloading a clip, because they are like, it's something that you can very easily miss. But then if you miss it, you remember Halo like as a shooter game. You don't really admire it for its story. So, you know, there's good and bad in that, I think.
Well, that's the thing with me is I love it for the story. Like, a lot of people just jump in and go straight to multiplayer, and, you know, like
Halo's not a game you can do that. Call of Duty is a game you can do that, but not Halo.
I've always been like the story kind of guy for it. It's just interesting. I don't know. I try to pay attention to those details. But I mean, for someone who casually plays it, like kind of like the way you were describing, Zach, I mean, sometimes you're doing something like you're trying to get a collectible, or you're reloading, or you're focusing on an enemy, and a couple pieces of dialogue go by, and you're like, wait, what happened? Yeah. And so sometimes that'll jeopardize like progress in a way, or how fast it takes for you to get there, because they may say something that's important as you're doing what you're doing. So it's like, well, fuck, what do I do now? Because you don't know what you're supposed to do in that instance.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like progression-based dialogue is a problem in any game. Like, I feel like, especially if you're just like, all right, it's time to do the next thing, like I do constantly, and they're like, you can like hear the beginning of what is probably an important storyline start up, and then it's like cuts off, and then you're like, oh fuck, I probably should have listened to that. I feel
the thing with Halo 2, for example, and I'm only saying it because we're talking about it. It's very like, there are things that are important to the story or in terms of progression, but in terms of like going to the next thing, I think they handle that very well. In terms of like, usually the most important dialogue is in the beginning or in a transition period, instead of like right in the middle of the combat. I think they do a pretty good job with that. Yeah.
No,
or they relate to cutscenes.
Yeah, I'm talking about certain moments where, like, you're supposed to stand in place like a good soldier and listen to what they have to say, but instead I'm running in, you know, I'm getting all the shit. So, you know, I just feel like it can screw certain things up.
Case in point, the Scorpion level.
Yeah, definitely. So we basically get to, as Colton said, you know, you get to experience this story from both Chief and Arbiter's side of
which
things.
Is amazing. And I mean, the way that this game executes that, where you literally just go back and forth between playing as Chief and Arbiter, and you start to see, like, they start to converge in their stories, and you start to see the aftermath of what Chief does from Arbiter's perspective, and then vice versa. And then towards the end of the game, like, the humans and the elites are working together, which is like fucking incredible to me. You know,
what's so interesting about this game too is that most of the time plots like that they'll collide at the end of the game, so it's like the last couple missions they're together. Whereas this one's kind of like, you got like 3 or so missions left, and the characters just met, and then they just go away. And they don't even interact in terms of gameplay. You interact with them because of Gravemind, and then like you go to one place, you go to another. That's it.
Yeah, let me just say, because the Master Chief Collection came out on the console, right, a while ago, and I had it back when I still had my Xbox One. Back when I still owned one of them.
Time ago.
So the fact that it's now on PC is pretty great. I'm glad that people are able to play it and use it. But the one thing I did not care for was how detailed the updated graphics made Gravemind. I'm like, oh, I was definitely more okay with the original.
Yeah, man.
Shit was gross.
Yeah.
I think he looks sick as shit, dude.
Well, that's
like,
the flood, dude. That's what they do. You know, they're literally just lumps of biomass.
Yeah, man, it's not. I'm not cool with it. I'm not.
with ribbed up cheeks and like
Yeah.
couple mouths within mouths.
Not cool with it. Not cool with it at all. Actually.
Yeah, that's only one part of it. That wasn't the whole Gravemind. So.
Yeah. Well. Oof. Anyway.
Yeah.
The interwoven being that is Gravemind.
The idea is that fucking the Arbiter gets like thrown into like a pit or something and gets taken by Gravemind, who is already taken Master Chief at that point.
Yeah.
Yeah, they both get like sucked in. They both fall into this same pit, and then they're both like held up by the Gravemind. But we have to get to that point first, because we were talking about the gas mine level, which I think is really important.
Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't know we were going level by level.
I mean, we're not going to go level by level. I'm going to just go like super important level by super important level.
Well, do you want to go like Arbiter's story and then go Chief's story?
I guess
do it
so.
that way,
Yeah,
since we're jumping like that.
Yeah, I think we should definitely do that, because I think it's really important to see how they converge at the end. We actually in the gas mine we start to fight elites as the Arbiter, and we're told that these elites are heretics. And we can actually learn through terminals in Halo 2 Master Chief Collection that they were originally part of the Covenant, and they were left there by the Covenant because the impending storm. And 343 Guilty Spark actually comes through and kind of just tells the elites what it's doing there, why it's there, what the ring is. And they're like, wait a minute, so this whole Great Journey thing is bullshit? And the Spark is just like, yeah, pretty much. So,
yeah, point that he's like, I'm not entirely sure why
like,
you guys are so insistent on calling, like the Oracle and the Great Journey and
he's like, I'm just here doing my job, man.
It's like he's like, I'm just a tool made by my creators to protect and observe the installation.
Yeah, it's
and they're like, oh, okay.
He's like, it's really not that complicated, guys.
Yeah, but you gotta think about with them, the Sangheili, the alien race of the Sangheili. I mean, they come from like, if you look at like some of like the older stuff, they're almost like a Japanese style culture, like a very old,
very honor based
Asian culture. So like, plus not to mention they had the wool over their eyes for God knows how long.
Yeah, this was like multiple generations in of the Sangheili being part of the Covenant. And
I mean, think of it this way: like the Arbiter, they even say the Arbiter is infamous. Even though he's a great warrior, he's infamous with shame.
Yeah,
like that's kind of fucked up when your most prominent piece of I guess lore or history is like shameful and dishonorable.
If you read the Halo books, it actually only started when the Sangheili were inducted into the Covenant.
Oh my
So,
god.
yeah.
Here he goes again with his expanded Halo universe.
Okay.
I'm going to touch on it eventually.
This isn't Halo 5, so we're not going too far into it.
You guys are fucking nerds.
It's literally the point of the podcast.
Fucking guy with a life and a job.
You and your master's degree. But
guy who prefers Halo 3.
That would be me too, but I just think now I don't even remember where we fucking were.
Yeah, good.
You were talking about Guilty Spark enlightening the quote-unquote heretics.
Yes,
I don't want to hear any of your fancy book learning nonsense. Get out of here. We're talking about Halo 2.
Yes, I just think it's super interesting that our very first encounter, our very first playable mission as the Arbiter is against fellow Sangheili who have been deemed heretics, and, we see that that's happening not just there, but obviously the implication is because it's happening there, it's happening everywhere else. And then that's the first instance where we're kind of forced to question, well, why are there heretics? I thought this was the whole thing. I thought the Sangheili were synonymous with the Covenant. And no, it turns out that it's literally just a religious belief, you know, and it brings it more analogous to human beings, which it just personifies these people more and more. And it kind of makes you feel for the Sangheili, and it also casts the shadow of doubt over the Arbiter, because he's like, wait a minute, why are they doing this? You know?
Which Halo ship is that? Is that the Shadow of Doubt? Is that a thing?
The Shadow of Intent, actually.
No, it literally just sounds like a Halo ship. I can't believe you well actually me there. Jesus Christ.
I mean, the only argument I'll give to that, Colton, because I mean, I'm sure there are Covenant factions that have either left for any reason whatsoever or deserted, but this one in particular has a guilty spark. Has
a damn good reason.
Like it's, you know, it's more convincing. I mean, I'm sure, like, maybe they're like, oh, I don't like the prophet of truth.
No. That's not what I was saying. That I'm saying that, like, just because we were physically seeing it, we as the players were experiencing that. So we kind of found out that that's happening. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but I'm saying that when you say that we can assume it's happening everywhere, it probably is for different reasons. But in this case, this is, you literally have a piece of Forerunner technology explaining that everything you've known is a lie.
Right, and that's also
I just saw Joker recently. It's kind of like when he goes through the files, spoiler alert, of like his family and like what he finds out and how his whole life was a total lie and pretty much is like the pushing point towards his insanity.
Exactly. And then at that point, the Arbiter actually meets up with 343 Guilty Spark, and he kind of gets the whole spiel too, you know, and obviously the Arbiter is trying to keep his faith, but at the same time he's like, all right, this shit's making a little too much sense, you know? So, like, well,
I mean, he everything is cool with him until the sacred icon. Yeah. You know, until he goes to grab the index. Because at that point, Tartarus is like, what do you mean? They literally ordered me to do this. And then he doesn't even get a chance to process it. He gets flung down a hole, and then Gravemind finds him. Yeah. So, like, he never really had time to process that his life fucking sucked.
Yeah, exactly. And that's when you first think that Chief and the Arbiter are going to actually meet up and fight, because they're both converging on the same point. They're both after the index. And that's the point where Miranda and Sergeant Johnson actually fight the Arbiter, which I think is really, really cool. And correct. We get one of my favorite lines in Halo history, when the Arbiter literally picks him up by his fucking throat and puts him up against the wall, and he just goes, how you doing?
How you doing?
It's just the funniest shit in the world.
That was peak Johnson.
Absolutely. That is literally Johnson at his most Johnson.
Literally justice for Avery Johnson. I cannot believe.
Of course. He is just he is probably, aside from Master Chief and the Arbiter, the most iconic Halo character.
Definitely the most important secondary Halo character.
Oh, 100%.
I think because 343 is pretty set on shitting out as many Halos as they possibly can.
Wow.
I think it'd be really cool to have a Sergeant Major Johnson game.
Like before Halo
from Harvest.
Yeah.
The first alien attack. Like he was on that planet.
It's like considered to be like the Solo or Rogue One of Halo, pretty much. Like
so
I
he'd
think that'd be a great idea.
Would you say he'd be Private
exactly.
Johnson?
Say again?
Would he be Private Johnson?
Really?
With child,
really?
Yes.
Really? Really?
Yeah.
Really?
Zach, what are we doing with here?
What a gem of comedy we've mined here today. Did you really? The man is the tallest 7-year-old I've ever seen in my entire life. Private Johnson, huh? That's the one. That was the one that's going to catapult you to stardom, huh? That's what all the marbles are on, really. Private Johnson.
Fucking hell!
I don't care. I don't care if he cuts it out in post, but it has to be said.
Oh my God.
So fucking funny.
Unbelievable.
You really are a giant 7-year-old.
Unbelievable.
I mean, I do a morning radio show for a reason, so
he can program a podcast, but throw him his multiplication tables and he freezes. Jesus Christ.
Man, that was a bad time to take a drink.
Yeah. So anyway, Harvest. It was the first Covenant attack on humanity, if I remember correctly. So, and Johnson was I believe, on site. So it'd be really cool to have like a game based around that.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Kind of like
definitely.
an origin
Or at least
story.
around him, and that's a huge part of it.
Yeah,
I agree.
honestly, you could program like a 25-hour campaign of Sergeant Major Avery Johnson doing his taxes, and I would play it.
Yeah,
Oh,
probably.
100%. Put the 0 and the decimal in the right spot.
I know what the IRS likes.
So
You
yeah,
just say
so,
0.
so Johnson and
deductible.
Keyes meet up with the Arbiter, yeah, and they have that little exchange. Meanwhile, John's off being grave-minded, I believe.
Yes, and at that point, it's when the Oracle, quote unquote, tells the Arbiter what the Index is for, and Johnson and Miranda also tell him what the Index is for and what Halo is for. He's like,
I think you're skipping a bunch.
Oh,
Yeah,
I
you
am
cut up for me too, there, Chief.
No,
Oh,
you're
sorry.
like skipping a bunch in the story.
"Oh, really?
shit.
I thought that was the
Yeah,
point."
so the deal is that with the level of the sacred icon, it's literally a race between the humans and the Covenant to get
Yes.
to the Index. So they get to that point where there's the attack and the how you doing, and then there's the, they order me to do it, and he goes flinging down the pit.
Oh, yeah, and then
So
he
the-
takes 343. Tartarus takes 343.
Yeah, Tartarus took 343 after the Heretic. So the Heretic was telling him what was going on. He kills the Heretic, saying he's a liar. Then the Oracle gets taken away.
Wow,
But this is when the Index is trying to be retrieved. So like this is when Johnson and the Arbiter and Keyes fight.
Is
That's
that why
when
we have
Tartarus. Yeah. So are we on the same page?
Yes,
Yeah, I
yes,
was like,
yes, yes,
this
yes.
is why we have you on the podcast for the most part. Whenever it's time to talk Halo.
Exactly.
appreciate
Okay, so this is the point where then they split up after that, and
So the
basically-
Arbiter and Chief are now together at Gravemind, and Gravemind's like, hey man, so you're holding onto your beliefs is fucking shit up, and you don't know half the shit that's going to Chief. Like, you don't know what the hell's going on in this side of things. So like, you need to fix this. You need to make sure this is a thing. So I'm going to send you to this possible spot, and I'm going to send you to this possible spot, and don't fuck it up.
Yeah, but he
And
says it's
let's
so much
keep in
more
mind
poetically.
here that there's another guilty spark down there with them, telling them and confirming this information, and the Prophet of Regret is down there,
Yeah.
also trying to make sense of what's going on.
Yeah, I wanted to talk about their names real fast because it's almost they're kind of doing like a 1984 kind of thing with the naming of the prophets. Like the Prophet of Truth was like the head kind of propagandist. He was the one that was kind of spouting all that bullshit about the Great Journey. The Prophet of Mercy was the one like organizing their war effort for the most part. I don't fucking remember what Prophet of Regret does. All I remember was killing him.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's like they're literally it's right there in front of you that these kind of religious heads are just lying to these
Well, if you-
masses.
Yeah.
If you think about it, I'm actually going to skip around a little bit if you actually think about it. So Regret, right? Regret is the one that leads the campaign onto Installation 5 and is kind of like, we're going to hang out here and we're going to, make sure this fires and Sacred Journey and shit because we know we're not getting a second chance. And then he ends up getting killed. And even when he's taken over or corrupted by Gravemind, he still has this like great journey mindset and how the Covenant are going to succeed. Mercy on High Charity gets attacked by a flood sapperling, and then Truth's like, I'm not showing him mercy, and just fucking leaves. And he even still is believing in the whole Great Journey thing, even as he's being choked out, and Chief saves him.
Right.
And then
Yeah.
in terms of Truth is doing anything but the truth. He's literally doing what's in his best interests for basically, like, his whole thing is destroying the humans. Like, that's really what it is his whole entire religion was slanted on destroying the humans, because the humans are the quote-unquote reclaimers who are able to access Forerunner technology. So if you get rid of them, they have all the power in the world.
Yeah, which
Right.
was like really stupid of them now that I think about it, that Regret was actually on Earth and he didn't kind of just scoop up a random human in case they couldn't use Johnson. Like
Regret was on 5, on Installation 5, he was on the ship. He was on the same ship that was on Earth, but he never touched down.
Well,
I guess
you know what I mean.
With
Obviously,
the Scarab.
I'm not talking about him literally coming in and scooping a human up, like obviously his team.
That's funny
Right.
because I believe that's what you just said, actually. So that's an interesting backpedal for you.
What?
You just said, why didn't he go down there and scoop up a human? And you said, I'm not saying he needs to go down there. And
No,
scoop
I'm
up
not
a
saying
human.
him personally, like just his team go and scoop
Perhaps-
somebody
well,
up.
maybe you should have been more clear. I don't know what to tell you.
Oh my god.
It's a
Yes,
possibility.
I
You know
will
what, but that's the
actually him
thing is
once.
The problem is they went to Earth as a diversion. So, like, for example, they even say that the fleet that attacked Reach was like
50
10
times
times
this
the
size.
size.
50 times. It's 50 times. You give Colonel Hood his respect, please.
Admiral,
Thank
you better give him his
Whatever.
respect.
Whatever.
Yeah, whatever to Admiral respect.
Whatever.
Anyway,
Lord Hood, excuse you.
Okay, so it's 50 times that size. So at that point, you're like, okay, it's a trap or something's going on. That's where the whole bomb thing happens. But that wasn't supposed to be the primary objective. Why they didn't take a human? I don't fucking know. Maybe there was a plan, like to, I don't know, get the sacred icon and capture a human with it, like they did 2 of
But
them.
like, weren't they planning on destroying the Earth?
No, they were trying to take the humans.
The great
Like they're trying to like divert the humans so that they would be focused on what's going on Earth while they were occupied with the ring. Because at that point, you see that there are camps and shit already made on Installation 5.
Yeah, but
so they clearly
here's my
had
thing.
shit going on already.
but
they're
here's-
just trying to draw the attention away.
Here's my problem. If they had jumped to the ring without fucking grabbing a human being, because the human beings are the reclaimers, they wouldn't have been able to fucking do anything at the ring.
That's not necessarily true because, and especially because of the events that panned out. Because yes, there was a ship that happened to just barely like get by, which, you know, you want to call that coincidence or luck, fine, whatever. But at the end of the day, they went to go get the sacred icon or the index, and they ended up capturing 2. So they still got what they wanted.
Yes, but
You know,
only
you didn't
because
have
they...
to, you didn't have to abduct some random human to fucking do it. Would
Right.
have made things easier, sure.
But the only reason why
they still
they
achieved
were...
what they needed to with nothing would have changed essentially because they still
only-
needed to get the index anyway.
The only
it here.
reason why they were able to do anything at Installation 05 is because Miranda Keys made the order to chase them. If Miranda Keys did not make that order, they would have been stuck on the installation with no human.
Miranda Keys did nothing wrong.
No,
2020.
Miranda Keys had no
Yeah,
fucking
but
clue.
you also have to take into account, right? So there are a few things you need in order to do this. You need either the ring or the arc. You need a human or a reclaimer equivalent, and you need the index. The index is essentially the key that turns the ring on, and a human or reclaimer touch would help fire it. So they got 2 of the things. They get, regardless of whether Keys makes the jump or not, they get to Halo and they get the index. So that's already 2 things without Keys jumping. Now all they have to do is find a human.
Okay,
and
I
get
see what
them.
you're saying.
So they can either wait at the ring and capture one like they did,
Okay.
or they can go back and get one.
Right, okay,
So
I see
either
what you're
way,
saying.
their plan still pans out regardless.
So they just kind of were handed step 3.
They were
Yeah.
literally 2 and 3 came in one step.
Okay.
Because it was a race between, like, at the end of the level Sacred Icon where you're with the Arbiter on that like elevator, that like sideways going elevator. I don't even know what it's called, like, but it was like a lift.
Yeah.
And like they say that like the
A
humans are
gondola.
on the other
It was like
side,
a
so
space
there's a
gondola.
race to get there. So it's essentially you're killing 2 birds with one stone, and in terms of Tartarus's case, 3 birds because you're betraying the Arbiter.
Of course. Okay, so I see what you're saying now. But it really is just one of the coolest games in the fucking world. And like all this shit that we're talking about, this was all packed into how many missions? 12?
13.
Yeah.
13.
Something like that.
And you know what's interesting about it, and this is a shot at Halo 5, the levels and characters you played as were pretty much evenly balanced. Chief was 7 and Arbiter was 6.
Yeah, instead of
And,
12 and
like,
3?
Yeah, it was 12 missions for Locke and 3 missions for Chief.
Yeah. So
And one of them was the introduction to Blue Team.
Oh God!
Which
Well, it was
we-
Halo 5 by that point. We were sick of playing as Chief. I feel.
Oh,
I was absolutely not sick of playing.
I
as
love
Chief.
Fire Team. Don't get me wrong. I love Fire Team. But as a huge nerd, Blue Team, like Chief's actual friends that he grew up with, a lot of people want to see what goes on and like their relationships and how things went down as far as their chemistry. They've been on several missions, like many missions together. You want to see that, you know?
False
you don't want to see
advertising?
the, hey, here they are versus they just got on the planet versus here's the final mission of or the second to last mission they have. That's not fair to the people that like, not to just a Chief's character or anything like that, but to the people that know who Blue Team even is. Like, those are the people that he grew up with.
Yeah.
Chief's been a loner his whole life up to this point. And now he hangs out with his friends and there's no like, oh, hey, there's no connection or anything to draw on or chemistry. It's just kind of like, here, they're here, let's go kind of thing.
Yeah. I mean, false advertising on Blue Team. They're wearing white armor, but it's
False advertising
my
in general.
fucking God!
Gee, I can't make a joke. All right, so let's get back to Halo 2.
It's just you can't.
All
it
right,
seems.
so I'm gonna move this. I'm gonna move this along then. So Arbiter gets put right near the I guess the station or the deck where the ring would get fired from.
Yeah, and then the
and what he
Shipmaster
sees
pops up
is
in
a
a
shit
wraith.
ton of piled up dead elites and brutes kind of hanging around patrolling the area. So he's like devastated because his people are officially being killed, even though they're following the same
like a
journey
civil
as the
war
brutes
has
are.
been declared.
Yeah, pretty much. So that's when the Arbiter goes apeshit, and then over the course of time, you see him saving elites. The Hunters have joined the fight as well, but that's later on. And as he's going through, he runs into a wraith, and the wraith is about to fire. It looks like it's about to fire on him, and out pops up Shipmaster. So it's like, okay, so I guess he caught on to this too. Like, he's been trying to survive. It's like, what the hell's going on? And so the Arbiter's like, yo, here's the deal. And Shipmaster's like, fuck, that's the deal. And then they're like, okay, let's go figure this out.
He really just like takes everything Arbiter says at face value immediately. So
Well, I mean, at that point, you see that like there is a form of respect.
yeah,
Like, even from the like that makes two of us for the like, you know, your life isn't valued by me kind of thing. It's just like, all right, wow, he really doesn't care.
and they did have
But-
that bonding moment, like in the what was that level where they both had to fight the flood, and it was like I don't remember the name of the level.
That was the level heading up to the sacred icon. So they
Right,
were on
right,
the
right,
ring.
right. Yep.
So that's important too, because they also discovered that the flood was on the ring.
yeah,
You know, that's the level. That's the level you find that out on, because at that point, the only encounter you had was on the gas mine.
yes,
Then you find out like, oh shit, like they're on this ring too.
yeah. Which actually, I wanted to say, I don't know if you knew this, Marlon, but the monitor that you actually see in the grave mine, that was the monitor for installation 05.
Yes.
So that's
He
why,
says that it says that in its dialogue that it's installation 5's monitor.
which is interesting because if you go to the terminals, you find out that that actual monitor's name is Penitent Tangent from the monitors. And
Oh, doesn't it say it?
yeah, you
I thought he said
actually,
it.
I don't know if it actually says it in that scene, but I know it says it in the terminals. You actually find out that particular monitor was just like, fuck it, I'm just letting the flood out, you know, and it just shirked its duties, and it was captured by Gravemind. It said, fuck it, I don't care. So that's why
that makes total sense based on what I talked to you about with like how Halo Infinite is set up.
Yeah.
With the AI made by the Forerunners named Medicant Bias,
Mm-hmm.
who was turned by the precursor that stole a fucking Halo ring.
which I have been learning a lot about recently. So
Yeah. Oh yeah. It's, as far as the lore shit goes, I mean, July cannot come soon enough. I'm like,
can't
what's his
wait.
name? What's the Dave Chappelle? I'm like Dave Chappelle, like scratching my neck, looking for Halo Infinite stuff so I could put together like theories and speculation and lore
dude.
and shit.
this is
Oh,
so,
God.
I'm
That new
waiting for
Halo.
it. What?
Y'all got that new Halo?
Exactly. I can't wait for it because that's the thing, Zach, is the ring that they showed in the trailer for that game is called Zeta Halo, and Zeta Halo is the Halo where they experimented on the Flood and shit, like big time.
Ooh,
so that's the one that
Ancient
they believe
humans
is,
were tortured
the one
there.
that Meta can bias and the Precursor took. The Precursor is like a super like flood-like being.
It's like it's essentially like God, if that makes sense.
Oh, cool. I was gonna go with Flood Nemesis, so I'm glad that we're back there. I'm glad that we're on God. Okay,
Yeah.
Cool. Totally get it.
He's kinda. But yeah, his whole thing is he steals a Halo ring and corrupts the AI of the Halo ring for like 43 years, and then the Forerunners are like, "Hey, we have a problem. Let's meet all the Halo rings in one spot and figure this out." And then the Precursor's like, "Okay, let's bring the Halo ring during the meeting." And then there's a huge outbreak of the Flood, and that's why the Halo rings end up getting fired, is because the Flood spreads around like crazy.
And the idea behind the Halo rings is that when they fire, they can end all life in the universe, right? That's the whole idea.
So their deal is they kill living organisms to starve the Flood. Because the Flood, that's what they feed on. That's how they grow. There's
True.
no cure
True.
for it. That's what the Forerunners were trying to find, is how to cure the damn things. So they're like, okay, if we can't cure it, we might as well kamikaze. And
Right.
the way that it works is they have DNA stored of as many species as they possibly could find, like the elites and humans and the grunts, hunters, whatever you name it, stored away, that at a certain point, that after the rings were fired, what would happen is that those would be transported to like X location, or like, so like the humans would be sent to Earth, like that pod would go to Earth, and that would start to generate humans, and like that's when like the cycle would renew. So like humans would come out as like cavemen, for example, and that would start up, like they would recolonize and re-civilize back to normal, essentially.
And that's where we get a lot of information, is Zeta Halo on this shit. And
that's the key. That's why the Infinite is potentially a huge deal in terms of the story.
But we're talking about 2.
Yeah. So anyway, back to 2. We're sticking with the Forerunner. I mean, so we're sticking with Arbiter's story, right?
Yeah.
So Arbiter says to Shipmaster, the prophets are fucks, and he's like, "Fuck, the prophets are fucks." So then they're like, "Okay, we got to go solve this." So they go through a cavern, they do their thing, and all of a sudden there's a scarab, and you're like, "Oh, we can definitely do some damage with that. We got to get inside that station anyway." So then they go up there to the dock of the scarab, and they fight a bunch of brutes. They find some humans up there, and they're like, "Oh, okay, cool, that's interesting." And then you have Johnson piloting the scarab.
Yes, sir.
It's like, you don't like me, and I sure as hell don't like you.
Sure as hell don't like you.
So they plan to use the scarab to blow off the door, which they do. You provide aerial support.
I really just love
inside.
the ending. Do you remember the ending line for that scene? He's just like,
"Hey, bastards, knock, knock."
It looks like, well, that big furry bastard's happened to lock the door, but it just so happens that I have a key. Like, I just love it.
So the Arbiter goes in, he takes out a big brute squad, and then he confronts Tartarus, who's trying to get Miranda to fire the ring. And so he relays the information the best way he can. He pretty much uses the Oracle to tell him what's going on. And the Oracle says forward everything, that this is for this is for that. The ring's a weapon. The people that fire them are dead. You're an idiot. Don't do this.
Yeah.
And the prophets have lied. And Tartarus, essentially, I have the theory that he believes the Arbiter, but he also sees it as a chance to gain power. Like, essentially, if he were to survive, he could take on the prophets.
I have a different theory.
So, like...
All right, let's get it.
Go for it.
I think that, like, I'm looking at it as he has also been in the position of the Arbiter, where his whole life was raised to believe what the Covenant was saying. And then he's just suddenly faced with, my entire fucking life has been a lie. So I feel like the Arbiter and Tartarus were supposed to be two completely juxtaposed characters, where the Arbiter said, "Oh fuck, my whole life's been a lie. Let me start to be right now." And Tartarus is, "Oh fuck, my whole life's been a lie. I'm just going to destroy everything and make and prove myself right. You know, my whole life cannot have been a lie. So I'm going to do this to prove it right.
I kind of agree. I kind of disagree. Like, I see it as like, you know how it's like you can't teach an old dog new tricks, but at the same time, it's like
the Arbiter learned.
It's not like my life was a lie. It's, to me, it's for him more of a, oh, there's an opportunity here kind of thing. Because the reason why that scene is so powerful, besides the fact that the information is being conveyed between the two of them, is you have the Arbiter, who formerly fell Vadame, who at the beginning of the game was a powerful dude, gets everything taken away, and he doesn't even value his own life. Now, at this point, he is facing the person that is replacing him, that has replaced him as the head honcho, or like second in command, as someone who values not just his life, but his race's, and is in the position where he feels it's more important to get out as a group rather than by himself.
Of course.
And like there is a just cause to feeling the way he does, rather than speculating, oh, what's going on kind of thing. But he has gone from just hating from having everything to losing everything to now gaining something incredibly powerful, which is the truth. And then Tartarus's case, Tartarus is like, I have all this power. This is great. And now some guy and some light bulb are fucking telling me that my power isn't justified. And like, okay, so fuck you. You weren't good enough to hold this spot. So I'm going to kill you, and I'm going to continue to have your spot. Maybe I can go for a power move. Maybe not. But either way, it's better than what's going to happen to you after I'm done.
Yeah, I mean,
that's kind of like it's like the clash between the two of them. I think it's a really important moment in Halo
I honestly
history.
think it could be both. You know,
I'm saying that's simultaneous.
Yeah,
I'm saying that's a simultaneous thing.
But yeah, that's crazy. I mean, either way, Tartarus is just like, nah, fucking, I'm doing it anyway, and you can't stop me, or just fucking try and stop me. And then we get one of the first boss battles in Halo, which I think is really cool. We had the Heretic at the beginning, but I wouldn't classify that as a boss battle. That was like a sort of harder elite. But we get a real boss battle, and we have to take down Tartarus, and I just think that's so cool. I believe Johnson and Miranda are also fighting with you at that point?
Yeah, so the reason why the shields go down for Tartarus is because Johnson has a beam rifle. And so he's shooting Tartarus to knock down the shield, and that's when you would fire and try to kill him.
Yeah, and I think that's super cool. But
I don't know what Miranda's doing. Miranda's trying to figure out how to, either she's helping you or she's trying to figure out how to stop the ring.
Yeah, I think
at that point, all it really needs is like the key turn or her hand to get everything fired. But anyway, so Tartarus gets killed. Miranda takes the index out. The ring doesn't fire. And essentially, they learn that not only was there one Halo before, and not only that there were two in existence, there is a total of 7, but they only see 6 on screen. One of them being red for destroyed, which is installation 4. And they learn that not only was this whole game essentially like almost, it wasn't just that Earth was a diversion, the ring was also a diversion, because now Truth has separated himself and is going to the Ark where you can fire everything. So it's not just hopping from ring to ring. Truth was smart enough to say, fuck you, we're going over here. So we can get everything. You can't stop all these rings at once without coming this point. So it was a huge like diversion. Like the whole game, you get swindled in one couple sentences.
Yeah, that was kind of rough to find out.
That's what sets up Halo 3 of like go to the Ark and beat up Truth.
Yeah, which is an unbelievable game I'd like to get in depth with, but I also love to know that I watched a whole video about what this game was supposed to be, and by the end of development, they had cut like a third of the entire story, which is why we got that cliffhanger ending. We were supposed to get a kind of a Warthog run at the end through the Prophet of Truth's ship, like, which was supposed to be fucking amazing. But we were also supposed to have new Flood enemies. We were supposed to have something called the Flood Juggernaut, which is like a giant flood creature. Like, it looks like the carriers, like the little bubbly things, but gigantic and, very deadly. So
Well, what it sounds like to me is that essentially they fine-tuned and recycled those ideas and just put them in 3.
yeah, for the most part.
Like it just made sense to extend it to the next game.
Yeah, and Halo 3 is definitely one of the best games that has ever come out, and I will say exactly why.
Correct.
Because it's one of the...
It is a great game. I did not deny that. It is a great Halo game. I just think Halo 2 is better.
One might go ahead and say the best Halo game.
Because it's not.
I don't know. I see the case for you, Marlon. I really do. But
I mean, I could go and state a whole case right now.
I don't think we have the time.
No, I can sum it up in saying
we'll have
that
another trial episode.
Yeah, really.
I think in terms of summing it up, right? I think some of the things that Halo 3 is really well known for, like in terms of some of the music, some of the characters, some of that stuff is piggybacked from Halo 2.
Oh yeah, can I just say who was actually on the soundtrack for Halo 2?
Breaking Benjamin.
Breaking Benjamin actually did blow me away for free for the game, specifically out of love for it. Do you know who else was involved?
Hoobastank
and Incubus were both involved. And I think that is fucking unbelievable. And the soundtrack for Halo 2.
And Michael Salvatore.
Oh, of course. Halo 2's soundtrack will go on record as probably top 5 game soundtracks of all time. The Scorpion music for the bridge level. Oh my God. Like,
yeah, dude. Unforgotten on there.
Oh, yes.
Incredible. And then everyone's like, oh, but Never Forget on Halo 3. And I'm like, what about Unforgotten, which is the same song, but it's better arrangement.
Earth City was another great...
That's more subjective, but I think that, and I think the more, I guess, chordal version of the main theme is a lot better.
Mm-hmm. The Halo 2 version of the theme is fantastic.
I think in terms of the game itself, I haven't played Halo 3 in a little while, so I can't tell you in terms of gameplay. I mean, I will say that gameplay, Halo 3 is probably better. Graphically, there is absolutely no question. I think
it's just a little
story-wise, Halo 2 is a shit ton better. I think there's more to draw on. I think your characters are more developed.
I don't know, man.
I think they show more weakness and redemption, or just development in general.
They do. They definitely do, but Halo 2 is more of a low point in the character arc, but it's a beautiful low point. Like, not a low quality, like a low mood wise.
You have to have the
yes,
that's more of the rising and falling action.
It's the downslope. It's the downslope, and then Halo 3 is the all right, we're both here to fuck shit up. It's like,
I mean, and also that doesn't necessarily mean that it's any better or worse. I mean, for example, like I'll take a couple movie trilogies. So Lord of the Rings, right? A lot of people that's a great set of movies.
Careful.
A lot listen,
Marlon.
Okay, listen to me. The Lord of the Rings trilogy is one of my favorite sets of movies of all time.
Classic.
I'm just saying some people prefer Two Towers. Some people think Fellowship is better. Some people think Return of the King is better.
I mean, those people would generally be correct in my head.
Yeah, I happen to really like Return of the King.
Yeah, Return of the King is.
But I happen to really, I always gravitate towards Return of the King. But I mean, at the same point, I mean, Helm's Deep, the whole thing with Rohan. I mean, that's pretty freaking good.
No, it's definitely a hard choice.
In terms of like, we'll talk about like Star Wars original trilogy. It's almost unanimous. It's usually between 4 or 5, but it's usually 5, which is the middle movie, which is the whole like dive and the bad guys are doing well and the good guys are sucking. That ends up being like the better one of the 3 kind of thing for some of the same reasons. I mean, there are definitely similarities between the two. So I mean, in terms of it being like a type of game or story or mood, I don't really know if that really dictates it, but I know that in terms of, I know it's got a better story than Halo 1. I'll tell you that 100%. I'm willing to argue that 3 and 4 kind of like Halo 3 and Halo 4 kind of teeter as like second best in terms of story.
Yeah.
I think they both, like, for different reasons.
I
like,
feel Combat Evolved was there just to show off what they could do. And then it was so, as I learned from, the only reason I knew Breaking Benjamin or remembered Breaking Benjamin was on the track was that Colton sent me this video, and that I learned today that Halo was not originally planned to be a trilogy, and that blew my fucking mind.
Yeah, it was just meant to be Combat Evolved.
Yeah, it sounds a lot like Star Wars. Star Wars was one movie, and they're like, oh shit, people like this. They didn't plan for anything. It's the same thing with Halo. I mean, you should see the old models for Master Chief when he was on PC.
Oh,
that would, I mean, talk about a 5-head. But I mean, yeah, listen, they're all great games. I mean, 5 has its issues, but I mean, they're all great games. But I mean, yeah, I mean, so we're talking about Halo 2. Halo 2 is just overall, I mean, we didn't talk about Master Chief's story much, but essentially his whole deal is pretty much the same. Like,
yeah,
standard one where it's like, first of all, the bomb being delivered.
Oh,
yes,
give it the Covenant their bomb.
The greatest moment in Halo history.
Yeah, I'll agree there. I will definitely hit agree on that.
So then he ends up getting on the ship. He goes down. He fights off some Covenant. He destroys a Scarab single-handedly. Pretty solid move. And then he's on the ship that jumps to Halo 5, to Installation 5. He pretty much takes that spot over. Everything's cool. He kills the Prophet, and that's when the area gets glassed because they were recovering something that the humans didn't want to be seen or taken from them. So that's when he jumps in. That's when Gravemind catches him. Then he gets transported to High Charity, which is pretty interesting that the demon, the demon of their religion, is now in the Holy City.
Yep.
So then he goes there and he hangs out and beats the crap out of people, rescues some Marines, and then he runs into the Prophet of Mercy being choked out. And then more floods show up. And then you see High Charity getting slowly destroyed by the flood.
Man.
And then Chief managed to get on the Prophet of Truth's ship. And it's like, this is really cool. And it actually leads to part of my disappointment with Halo 3 story, is that particular moment in Halo 2.
What do you mean?
So at the end of Halo 2, right, with Master Chief, we see him get on Truth's ship, right?
Yes.
So, and that is heading towards Earth.
Right.
So like, okay, cool. We're going to get some form of battle. Halo 3, you see him fall right out of the sky and just fucking plummet. And you're like, wait a minute, what?
Yeah.
So there is no like kind of background. I mean, my there are two things I'll bring up, and this is where I bring up the EU of Halo. So my question is that, you know, he's with Truth, right?
Yeah.
And I did research on this, so I'm going to answer my own question, but he's with Truth's ship. He's in like the ship that if he beats it up, if he destroys everybody on board and pilots it and whatever, if he kills Truth right there, war's over, game over. That's it. Correct. Maybe someone else takes over, like in Halo Wars 2, Atriox.
Oh my gosh.
Wow. He's fucking dope. But like, you know, maybe that becomes a thing where there's like it would be kind of like a Ryan Johnson thing to do to kill the main villain off within the first 5 seconds. But you could do something where he tries to take the ship and he gets shot out of the ship, or he gets captured and has to escape somehow. You can do something like that, but instead it's just kind of like he gets flung from the sky kind of thing. And it's like, well, that's a little bit desired.
I mean, sure.
But so I looked it up because I was curious about it myself years ago. And so what happened is I checked the dates on it. So the game came out in late September of 2007. There was a set of comics called Halo Uprising that came out in October, and this is kind of like what the more recent Halo games and the sequel trilogy of Star Wars have had people complain about, which is using expanded material as a crutch. So in this instance, Halo Uprising, long story short, there's a B plot but the A plot is that Chief goes to take on Truth on the ship
Yes.
and gets captured.
Yes.
And he gets interrogated and questioned, and he ends up breaking out with through use of a concealed weapon, and literally fucking like shoulder charges out of the ship and falls in East Africa.
That sounds like John. I'll tell you
that would have been pretty cool to see.
Yeah.
I'm not saying we had to see it. I feel like a little bit of something would have helped kind of explain a little more than just let's fall right out of the fucking sky. Don't get me wrong. Chief can do whatever the hell he wants.
Although
but I feel like based on the setup that we had, I think the resolve was a bit of a letdown.
Although we did get one of the best lines in Halo history as
Stop it.
You want to do it?
Stop it. I'm absolutely going to do this one. Are you talking about Johnson when he recovers Master Chief?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, can I please have this one?
Please.
Do it.
I actually almost made this quote because, you know, the year, what you said was 2007?
Yeah.
That's when the game came out, yeah.
Okay, so Halo 3 was when? 2011 at that point? When did Halo 3 come out?
Halo 3 came out in 2007.
2007. Okay, so we are talking about Halo 3. I thought we were talking about Halo 2. Excuse me.
Halo 2 was 04.
Yeah, well, I obviously played Halo 3 for years after release. So I actually almost made part of
a decent human being.
Yeah, I made this. I almost decided making this was on the list of possible yearbook quotes to put in the yearbook because I'd been doing nothing but playing Halo 3 throughout high school. I graduated in 2012, so this is some time. Master Chief is lying dead after disappointing Marlin. He's not dead. He's like in stasis or whatever. His armor is
not
disappointing. Just the questioning.
The gel layer took most of the impact, and they like press a button, and all of his limbs stop going rigid and fall to the ground. Avery Johnson takes the drive that's in the back of his helmet. That's very famously where he keeps his AI Cortana, who is very central to not only the Halo plot, but especially the Halo 3 plot. And he says, "Where is she, Chief? Where's Cortana?" And he says something, I don't know, one random nameless soldier says something along the lines of, Chief's not going to make it. And he just Chief grabs his arm and says, "No, not yet." And takes Cortana back from him, or at least the drive. And he says, "You crazy fool. How come you always jump? Someday you're going to land on something that's as stubborn as you are. And I don't do bits and pieces." It's so good. It's just so good.
Yeah, man. It's just he has such whoever wrote Avery Johnson's lines was a fucking genius.
Yeah, they nailed it, man.
Is it Kevin Michael Richardson? I'm not sure. I can't remember who does his voice.
Yeah, I mean, it's just the delivery of all of the Halo voice lines and the writing of that game, or at least the dialogue, was spot on all the time. And it's just, except for 5, but it's I'm not going to talk about Shepard.
Listen, 5 has its problems, but
and all of them are Shepard.
5 was very reliant on one team and the lore. It was if you take it all away, take the lore and shit away, it's a good game. It's not as good as Halo could be, but it's still a pretty good game. It plays very well.
It was definitely fun to play.
The multiplayer is the best in the series.
Oh yeah,
absolutely, without a question, is the best in the series.
It's the prettiest looking Halo.
It's just amazing. But I mean, like I said, it has its problems. But I mean, no disrespect, but that game is out of the mainline games, bottom tier.
Yeah, I mean,
I hate to say it.
It's true. It is definitely true. Now, I would like to, before we end this beautiful podcast, this beautiful session of ours, because this is just this game means so much to me. What was your favorite part of Halo 2? If you could just pick one.
Goes
or your favorite feature.
I have no idea.
Sorry, your favorite feature. Not story wise. Doesn't have to be story. The new thing in Halo 2 that you could do.
Still being able to dual wield SMGs.
Oh yeah,
easy money.
Dual wielding in general.
Dual wield SMGs. Yeah, definitely. Or Needlers. Which one was the one that you couldn't dual wield in 3 that you could in 2? I think it was
Needlers. It was the Needlers. Once they found out,
baby,
because Needlers in Halo 2 were already broken on their own, but when you put them together, it's
Stupid.
more broken. So they're like, you know
ridiculous.
what? Let's tamp it down and let's take away the dual wield for that one.
We can walk back on some of this,
Yeah.
They made their corrections.
Definitely being able to dual wield needlers, definitely.
The other thing I didn't like about Halo 3 is they took away the machine gun for the tank.
Yeah.
Correct.
I thought that was pretty annoying.
I get it.
But
I do get it.
Oh, I totally get it, but I thought it was ridiculous.
You know what I really didn't like? Well, first of all, my favorite thing about Halo 2 was being able to drive a Wraith. Those are my favorite vehicles of all time, and solid, hands down, best vehicle in the game for me. But I really didn't like that the NPCs could use the plasma cannons, but you couldn't.
What do you mean on the Wraith?
Yeah, on the.
You mean the machine guns?
The little the little 2 plasma cannons
I hated
that are mounted.
That too.
Yeah,
I didn't like that at all.
Very
I didn't
specific.
like that at all.
I didn't like that at all, but I did love the Wraith in general.
Especially because the Scorpion, you're able to use the machine gun.
Yes,
so it's like, why wouldn't you do that for the Wraith?
Now, my favorite part of the Halo 2 Wraith is literally you could just blow the 2 wings off while you're still in it, and it becomes the width of a ghost. So you could just fit it into such tiny places and just dominate everything.
Yeah, Halo 3 was so fun for that kind of thing. Like it was.
Oh yeah.
For playing with other people, it was such a great experience. Of like, I remember making some of my greatest friendships with people because of that game.
Halo 3 was definitely the pinnacle of my Xbox Live.
It was my first Xbox Live game. I absolutely agree with you.
Damn, dude.
So in terms of Halo 2, favorite thing, I mean, I love. I mean, obviously, I said it's my favorite Halo game. I guess, I don't know. I guess it just plays really well. I just love being able to immerse myself in any level and kind of just have the ability to come back and remember the lines, and I guess just the overall experience of it is just my favorite. Being able to come back and feel good and feel like I'm in this conflict and watching it unfold. I get my favorite overall, I guess, is the fucking bomb, the whole bomb sequence from diffusing to detonating. But yeah, man, I mean, I love being able to jump into any point in the game and be like, wow, this is what's going on. No, go ahead.
Oh, I have one more important question. I'm sorry to cut you off because we are starting to come out in time here.
Go for it.
Were you in multiplayer an elite or a Spartan? It's very important.
Spartan.
Zach?
Spartan.
Oh, god damn it. I was really hoping for some backup.
I knew I was going to disappoint you. That's why I didn't.
It's not disappointing. I just wanted backup.
I was hoping to get away with it. I'm going to be real.
No, it's perfectly fine. I got headshotted so much because I was an elite, but I was like, fuck it, I could be an elite.
Target.
It was a tactical decision. It was a tactical decision. It was not an aesthetic decision, because if it was an aesthetic decision, I would have gone elite. But
I know what you mean. But
it's just not happening.
Yeah.
Oh, man. Oh, well, what can be done?
Well, I'm going to go play some Halo 2 online because they patched it. Thank God.
Finally.
Yeah.
It's been 83 years.
Zach, did you hear about the day one release of Halo 2?
I did not.
Oh, baby.
Oh, on the PC?
Oh, baby. You could shoot the floor and kill somebody randomly on the map. It was amazing.
Dude, there was a point, do you remember, Colton, have you played to the full campaign on PC yet?
No, not yet.
Okay. There's going to be that mission where you kill Prophet of Regret. I don't know if you've gone there yet.
No, I have not.
Okay, there's a point, right? So there's going to be a couple hunters that come out of a fandom, and then you go on a lift to another building.
Mm-hmm.
You're gonna remember that point. There is a video I saw of the Phantom that's supposed to deliver the hunters flies over the area and just fucking disappears. It's absolutely amazing. I'll find it and link it to you.
I'd love
found it on
to see
Twitter. but it was so fucking funny.
I would love to see that.
That launch has been such a meltdown.
Yeah, well, they released the multiplayer in a fucking god-awful fashion. Like, if you shoot a rocket, like, I saw a video of some guy shooting a rocket launcher, and it literally just randomly fell from the sky after he shot it. And it was just, yeah, it is... It's a little bit rough.
I thought this was supposed to be a remaster. Like, what are you fucking doing?
Yeah,
it is.
It's really concerning.
It's a remaster.
It sounds like they have no idea what they're doing.
It's 343 doing the remaster, so that should. And they also kind of dropped the ball in 2014 with the Xbox release.
Well, I mean, but that was the whole thing. I can understand that a lot more than a one single game.
I mean, guess so. Yeah.
With the Master Chief Collection, they had 4 different games, and it was so fucking buggy. It was unplayable, like at all, like campaign or multiplayer. And then they're like, "Oh yeah, sorry for fucking up. Here's ODST for free." And then eventually Reach showed up.
I remember that. I definitely remember that.
Oh my god, I'm genuinely concerned, not just with 3 coming to PC and what's going to undersell with 4 coming to PC, but Infinite's launch is my biggest concern.
Halo
Infinite. It's coming out on a new system with new capabilities.
It's also releasing side by side on the PC.
And you will have the same company with the same capabilities behind it.
The only excuse I can make is they're just really focused on the new one.
Yeah, I mean, and at the same time,
I guess.
God.
I feel like they had a hidden hard deadline, and with the whole fucking, I don't know, quarantine and pandemic that has been happening, I just don't think they had the ability to play test the way they wanted to. You know,
I'll put that in as as an excuse.
I mean
there really is an excuse for this kind of stuff.
No, it's not, because Reach was fucking terrible too, but they patched that pretty quick, you know? So
yeah, Halo 1's launch was messed up, but like no one's really talking about it because they fixed it up pretty nicely.
Yeah, they fixed it up pretty nicely, and
they're still trying to fix.
The errors weren't as egregious as Halo 2 or Halo Reach.
Ooh, egregious.
Yeah.
Lovely word.
Well, the hopeful part, right, is that 3 and 4 aren't remasters or anything. This is literally porting it and putting it on a PC.
Yeah.
So like there's nothing special or technical that needs to be done to it, as opposed to Halo 1 and 2 that got remasters. So this should 3 and 4 should be the easiest ones.
I suppose, yeah.
In theory, it would be the easier.
You'd think so, but this is also 343.
In theory, but we are talking about 343 here.
Yes.
Like, in theory, only goes so far.
Yes.
Yeah, in theory, you advertise a game, and that's the game that comes out. But 343 was like, nah.
Yeah, man. Yeah, man.
Listen up.
God, I was so pissed.
I really do think they should do the SpongeBob movie thing and just bring the head writers and developers of Bungie on for Halo Infinite, and then just like be like, okay, just help us out with this one, please.
Dude, at this point, it's kind of like Disney Star Wars for me. Just let Infinite be the last one and fucking just like do side shit. Like they made it so that Infinite's not going to be the last one. It's like part of a saga.
Rebooting the series.
Like, I don't know what they're going to do, but they've made it a saga instead of Infinite being the last one.
I will say I'm very excited for Infinite because I like the 2 characters we know of already. I love the fucking pilot guy. I think he's great. You know, he's very, very fun. And he's very obviously related to Foehammer, which I think is kind of cool. Because he has the same fucking lines as Foehammer, and it's very similar call letters, and I think that's really cool. That's a really cute touch.
What's interesting, it's just the way that 5 set this up is going to be very interesting, because you have new Chief Armor. This game is 4 years after Halo 5.
Mm-hmm.
You have what is supposed to be Zeta Halo. You have Cortana, who has had 4 years of ruling over everything. You have the Halo Wars plotline merging with this one now.
Bro.
And you have the Arbiter, who has been left on Sang Helios, and fucking Buck and his squad of ODSTs, with the exception of the Rookie, because the Rookie dies.
Mm-hmm.
Fucking they're Spartans.
Right.
So there's a lot that they can do.
Marlon,
there's a lot going for them.
We're getting the Banished in Infinite. according to a data mine. So I'm very excited.
Oh, of course. Well, you're gonna get you listen. You're gonna have what's left of the Covenant. You're gonna have the fucking Prometheans. You're gonna have the Banished, and you're probably, if Zeta Halo is true, you're gonna have the Flood.
Yeah,
like,
dude.
and like Cortana shit.
Jesus,
I'm excited.
Ow. Ow.
It's listen. If they fuck this up, they need to just give Halo to someone else.
Yeah,
that's just where I'm gonna
agree.
put it. Like it's one thing after another. Like,
Did you hear that, multi-billion-dollar gaming company? You're
Listen,
on
like-
watch. You're on high alert.
oh man, I will listen. I'm already talked to Colton about this. Like, I'm potentially trying to start a YouTube channel in terms
Hey.
of like long form media shit, like talking about like stuff like Halo and Star Wars and all this other important stuff in my life that's
Right.
being destroyed,
Wow.
and yeah, just voicing an opinion on it.
Got it.
And listen, man, if Halo Infinite tanks, you can expect a couple videos a week. My God, my heart has already taken enough from what
Halo
Disney-
Infinite,
I really
more
don't
like
need this.
Halo Infinitely disappointing.
Halo Infinite was the most disappointing thing besides my son.
Right. Nice. Love that.
Oh,
Yeah.
man.
So keep an eye out for that. Marlon's going to do his best AVGN impression, I'm sure, and do the thing. You know, I'm very excited to see what kind of content you decide is worthy of your statutory opinions.
Oh, so we should probably wrap up because
I've got a couple of concepts in mind. I've seriously, I've already gotten a couple
should probably
concepts
wrap
in mind.
up. I've got some couple
I'm in the
concepts.
process of I'm in the process of writing a couple of scripts, but I need more information because we're going off what's being seen by what I'm looking at right now, and I need more information in terms of like trailer or release to go off of, rather than saying
Right.
A, B, and C, and all of a sudden the whatever is coming out it gives me D. I'm like, oh,
Yeah.
well, I put out a video about A, B, and C and didn't address D.
Yeah. I totally feel the same way about Elden Ring, the new Dark Souls.
I fucking can't wait for that.
Yeah, it's pretty much the same concept. But thank you so much for being on with us, Marlon, once again. Appreciate you for coming out on such short notice, obviously.
Absolutely.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I always love talking with you guys.
Of
and
course.
about Halo too.
Marlon,
Right.
give you
Not Halo,
social
the number
media.
in general.
Give you social media, you animal.
So I'm on
Aggressive.
stuff as at Martron Music. On Spotify, I'm Martron. You can find some cool stuff on there.
Absolutely.
Yeah, man, just Martron Music pretty much anywhere. Yeah,
Playlist that shit.
Play Halo 2.
yeah.
Of
If
course.
you do it
Halo
for anyone,
2.
do it for Marlon. Just do it
Play
for
it-
Marlon.
Play Halo 2. There's a lot of character development.
Do it
a lot
for
of
yourself. It's a
everything that
fantastic story.
comes from there. A lot of all the Halo shit that happens that's the reason it happens. Is that game? fucking great game. And yeah.
Good night.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Good night.
Follow us on Twitter at the Tryforce _ and on Twitch at the same name. Zach, where can they find you?
At the end of every other episode.
Great. Excellent. So we put everything in the description, so I guess that's it. Thanks, guys. This was really fun.
Yeah, I had a good time.
Absolutely. So I'm going to go give the Covenant back their bomb, and I'll see you guys next week.
Where it's so easy.